Hello everybody, Random Mando here, back with another video, this time a little sooner than my previous videos. It's only been 2 weeks instead of like 2 months. Anyway, I'm here to showcase my Palp yellow list. I was the only Palp yellow, or sorry, the only Palp, that's even crazier, in the top 64, so I won a lovely showcase. So let's showcase the deck. So here's the deck I played to the qualifier. It's a bit wild, I know, a lot of one-ups, classic. Um, but essentially what I'm trying to do here is dodge Sabine. As the title suggests, no Sabines. The idea before the event was if I just, since it was going to be 9 rounds, if I just didn't see Sabine for 3 rounds, statistically, if I was smart with my decisions and beat the other decks, I could go 6 and 3, make day 2, and work from there. So that's where a lot of my one-off decisions come into play. The one-off sneak attack, for instance, was to try and close games faster by sneak attacking and devastators and walkers. Um, the one-off eager escort was for Han. It was designed to kill falcons before they could get upgraded. The one-off Moff Gideon was for aggro and mid-range. My thought was against Rey and Kira, you could play it on curve if you didn't see ramp. And then what it did was, like against Ray, it was detrimental because it would push damage, and then they basically couldn't use their Ray ability. It basically shut down their leader ability, and also presented a massive body that was hard to trade into, but killed everything. Um, and also a really good OB target, and against like it also triggered some officials, so it triggered Emperor's Royal Guard. Like I said, it's part of a slide I have, but yeah, Moff Gideon was it was good. It was good. That's why I actually ran another one in the sideboard. I have a one of Fell the Dragon. This is for crate dragons, mainly, and then it was also for situational moments where like the opponent would try to bait me with an answer to my flip. So instead of taking it with my flip, I would just kill it, force them to do more, commit more to the board. And it was also like some cool synergies. Um, Syndicate Lackeys was like I would against like Sabine, I would go, 2, I would play whatever turn one I had, it didn't matter what it was. 3, I would play Emperor's Royal Guard. 4, I would play Moff Gideon. Now my Emperor's Royal Guard is Sentinel. Now I have a Moff Gideon. Now they'd have to answer both once they've answered both by utilizing everything but their Sabine unit. I then would kill the Sabine unit on curve. If they played a Poe, I could just claim and barrage the Poe away, and then of course they can't really wrecker on it. Because it doesn't kill it, and they can't really like ambush on it, because then it just kills the Poe back, and then I've just taken damage. So it's like a really clean curve of like 2, 3, 4, 5, and then of course the 6th turn is where I could ramp to flip, and then at that point it was tempo play. So that's why I'm running like no healing except for walkers, because that was my idea into aggro, was I wasn't going to heal, I was going to put bodies to the board, force them to answer my bodies because I was playing with +5 health. So the one of Palpatine's return was essentially why I cut most of my top end. This was a universal top end. It could be my 3rd Walker, my 3rd Maul, or my 3rd Devastator, or a 4th Vader if it really came to it. So it was just like there were situations where I felt like I wanted all of it, so it was just here's all of it. And I moved most of that to the sideboard because I wanted to make room for more of my mid-rangey approach stuff. And of course the 2 Frozens, which were exceptional. They were good on everything I played them on. And then of course the sideboard, which basically was just redundancy, an extra Devastator, an extra Walker, more Palps returns, an extra Moff Gideon for aggro, phase 3s for aggro, eager for Falcons, sneak attacks to help close games, and of course the extra change of heart for mid-range. In comparison to my previous lists, let's go over that. This was the 5th place PQ list that I ran. As you can see, I removed the Waylays from the list. They are no longer there. I took out the regional governor. I removed the McClunky package for a different approach to aggro, and of course, no contracted hunters. The contracted hunters are really good into Quinlan and 3/5s. Because they kill like Kira on curve and draw, and they kill Ahsoka on curve and draw, so they're exceptional there. But that was not my approach here. I wanted to put bodies to the board and have them stick, and provide more value that way. And that was also why I was off the McClunky package, was the same logistical thought as like McClunky, it kills their turn 1, but I don't have a turn 1. I wanted to turn 1 to try and amplify my 2, 3, 4, or 5 game plan. So yeah, much more a mid-range approach instead of like the control into ramp into bombs that I had initially for the PQ. And like I said, I cut the CADs and the relentlesses. Ignore this like 9 card 7-card sideboard. I don't know what's up with that. It's really weird. But yeah, a much more thought process on like putting stuff to the ground and making it work. In comparison to my 9th place PQ list, you can see this one I've shared a lot more similarities with. The only thing is, again, I've cut the healing and the McClunky package, moved these guys to the side. I favored Lackeys over Bosk, although you could probably put Bosk in and it's perfectly acceptable. I just wanted a little bit more tech into Sabine, favoring instead of pure, just mid-range. But again, the Confiscates, play those in the main deck. You will not regret playing Confiscates in the main deck. I was lucky, I dodged Pilot Leaders, but after playing it today, it's like, wow, or when this happened, the Confiscates should be in the main. They allow your curve to be very smooth. And like I said, my top end here was much higher than it is here because I moved more of it to the side. And again, I wasn't on Relentless here, but I was on the Bounty Hunter Crew campaign game plan. So yeah, just a couple of differences with the approach. But what about matchups? How did that work out for me? Well, day one started off really hot. I went 5-0 to start the day, took some draws, and ended the day on a loss, which isn't great. But let's go through them all, and then I'll actually go through these matchups again and actually look at their deck and how it played out. But a boss Data Vault I played against. Game one went really smoothly. It's basically just play around Great Dragon, and then you kind of win. The only reason I lost the game was because during game two he sided in Dark Sabers into his deck, which I was not prepared for. So he caught me at a unprepared time, got 2 swings, and the game was over. But then game 3, now that I knew that was his game plan, I had a much solid game plan, and also I think his term was like pass, pass, pass. It was abysmal. It was terrible for him. So I won that. Then I got a Ray Blue 30. This was great. I beat it. It's Ray Blue. There's not much it can do. It doesn't have the grind engine that the Data Vault deck can offer. So in my opinion, it's just strictly worse. I got a Vader for yellow. All my tech worked perfectly. The ISBs, the Eagers, the P38s, the Confiscates. Glorious, glorious, glorious. It worked splendid. Like I said, I don't think you need to be scared of Vader 4 yellow. I have not lost to a Vader 4 yellow. It's just it doesn't have it. Your leader literally counters theirs. They make a 1/1, your leader does the damage. They can't make a board. And then I played against the Sabines CL. This is where the Moff Gideon tech actually worked its best. Both games I won, it did exactly what it did and it won. So no regrets there. Moff Gideon was amazing. And then I beat Ryan, Rebel Resource, on his Sabine Yellow. I was his only loss of day one. He went 8-1. So that was kind of neat to see. A lot of my tech for like Hans and mid range actually worked pretty well into him. Like the Cartel Spacers were amazing. The Frozens were amazing. Just everything really worked out for me there. Then the Dark Ages came though, 5-0, feeling great. Hit a Curate Data Vault deck that was absolutely stacked with top end. It had like 2 Annihilators, 2 Relentlesses, 2 Assault Carriers, 3 Avengers, 3 Devastators, or something like that. And in my mind, that's what it had. Just endless amounts of top end. I could not. It was just grind, 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 grind. So much grind. So that was a draw, which leads to the draw bracket, which is something you want to avoid as Palp Yellow. You want to avoid the draw bracket as much as you can, because this is exactly what happens when you hit the draw bracket. You get stuck with decks that take forever. Ray Data Vault was my next opponent, and again, these decks grind forever. You cannot outgrind these decks. They are super, super grindy, value-based machines. They will outlast you forever, especially the ones that run timelies and salvages, or by timely I mean timely reinforcements, salvages, the home ones, the tags, the lukes, just infinite, infinite, infinite. They just go forever. They have too much. And their little things are better than your little things. The card advantage they have is usually better than your leader. Like they can just continuously put stuff on the board forever and they will chip away. So that's something you need to be aware of. These decks can grind like crazy. I drew that game as well. And then I got a Quinlan Tarkentown. Game 1 I got rolled. Game 2 I stabilized. Game 3 I stabilized, but unfortunately it just slow. Just slow, sloppy, I would say. But the Curios and the Quinlan both of them drew 3 games, which is crazy to me. Like that's just I don't know how Quinlan draws 3 games. But I guess obviously our game is one of them, and that explains. But yeah, game 3 I stabilized with the Walker and Palp on board, but just did not have enough time to close out the game to win. And then I got a Sabines, which I got rolled game 1. It wasn't even close. Game 2 I came back with my Moff Gideon tech. And then game 3 I drew no turn ones and I lost, which is really my theme of ending the day on game 3 against Sabine no turn 1 plays and losing. But I managed to squeak into the day 2 category by being 59th place. Very lucky there, as one of the 4, like technically 6 and 3s players, even though my record isn't quite there. That's what it sums up to be points wise. So what about day 2? I needed to go 4-0, and I didn't. Womp womp. I hit a Quinlan Data Vault to start the day, which is great. It's a great matchup. It's really, really good. As long as they don't lightsaber their leader, they can't really do much. And they, even though they're running Data Vault, they can't grind like the blue-green Data Vault decks can. They just can't. So it's a really easy matchup. Han 1 green though, it got me with the cheese. I won game 1 by stabilizing well, but game 2 it fell apart. I took a gamble on a traitorous, hoping he didn't have confiscates. I knew he probably had 2 or 3 in his deck at that point. I know they side him in. It was on stream. I think I played pretty sloppy. The funniest part is I think, technically speaking, I played my worst in the game I won, which was a bit weird. But if you want to see how not to probably approach that matchup, that would be a good game to watch. And of course, I didn't see any eagers, which didn't help, I don't think. Yeah, it was just bad. Something I gotta work on for sure. Can't afford to lose to Han 1 green. Then I lost to an 9 yellow. This game could have definitely ended in a draw, but we decided to play gas for game 3. But yeah, if we weren't playing gas, like we were zooming. We weren't cutting decks. We were playing like very, very fast. Could have called fast play on us with how fast we were going. So otherwise that would have been a draw, and that's something we need to address with my list. Is it was not prepared for like pure hard control. Obviously with no relentless and no restocks and no tricks up its sleeve. It's very light. So that's a bit bad. But then I 2-0 to Kira to end the day. So at least I ended the day on a win, which is good. But yeah, it was just a Cure Data Vault. This one, I don't know why it worked so much better than the other ones. Just the deck, I feel like my deck just worked better, and his deck just didn't work as good as the other one. But yeah, this is, I'd say, a pretty accurate representation of the meta as a whole and Palp into the meta. So what my takeaway is, well, I had to finish games faster. I wasn't doing that well enough. Well, I'll definitely be looking at ways to do that. Whether it be like pumps, maybe run pumps, maybe run more mid-range, more top end, and that leads to my mid-range top end dilemma is these decks can grind. They're gonna grind for forever. So what are some things that maybe run campaign? Maybe it's time to put Relentless back. What about Space Cheese? That got me. Han 1. Obviously, the Vader 4 matchup I think is great, but what about Han 1? What can we do to improve against the Space Cheese? That's a good question to ask yourself. And of course, Riva Alu, aggro matchup. I took a completely different approach to aggro for this tournament. Like I said, I wasn't running McClunky. I wasn't running Colonel Yularen or Crumb. I wasn't running much ambush. I was more going for the put bodies on the board with good stat line at their cost and see what happens from there. And if they would ECL earlier than they should, because of the fear of barrage. And that turned out to work pretty well. So yeah, questions on like Cad Bane, Relentless, McClunky, Package, Slicer's Crumb, where do they belong? Should they go back in? And of course the new challengers. Why play them? Why not? You know? Seasoned Fleet Admiral, like I was previously, I don't know if I went through this, but I will go through it again, was for like C-3PO, Mon Mothma, Bright Hope, Pershing. Like I said, I was approaching this as much more mid-range, and one of the best things they can do is draw cards against us. So this was kind of like a counter for that, especially if you were able to, like, if you went this and they went C-3PO, it was like, sure, you get cards, but now I essentially have array ability on my units. And like, if you go this into an Emperor's Roll Guard and they draw a card, you now have a 4/6 Sentinel. That is a massive body, especially that early in the game. It also has a 2/4, which is a really good stat line because it can't die to any 3/3s. It can actually trade with them, and it means they can't do any shenanigans where, like, if Sabine goes first, play Sabine, you play this. If they don't have Fleet Lieutenant, you can safely Emperor's Royal Guard, and you don't have to worry about that. So that's cool. Moff Gideon, like I said, it was designed for the mid-range decks to hit base and just all of a sudden break their curve. It also was a good stat line. Kira couldn't flip into it because it would just kill Kira or hit base and like mess up the curve. It could also present an OB target against Kira, which I actually did in one of my games. They flipped Kira, wounded everything, and then I just board wiped him by playing an OB, which was crazy because I think his only play was OB. So like he flipped to set up his OB, but I had one, so I board wiped him with a 7 OB because it was like 4 and 3 and 2. It was glorious. And then fell the dragon. Will they stay? Will they go? That is a really good question. I think Moff Gideon overperformed. Like I said, I played one on the main, one on the side, and he definitely felt pretty good in the matchups I played him. He definitely won me games, which is more than I can say for Fell the Dragon or Seasoned Fleet Admiral. They did not single-handedly win me games like Moff Gideon did. Um, but yeah, let's run through a little bit more and accurately how my deck played, what it played into, and what those decks look like. So here are my matchups. We can verify the fact that I suck. So here was the Bosk that I played. Oh, they're running one of Darksaber in the main. That's crazy. It wasn't even a sideboard card. Isn't this crazy, all the retrospects you can get now from looking at it? But wow. And just an insane amount of top end this guy had. Wow. I don't know how I lucked out beating him game 2. That is crazy. But yeah, 2 crates in the main, which I would suspect. All of this, I would definitely. Oh yeah, he had the Kylos. That was something crazy. I would not. This is a very I would say not regular boss Daredevil deck, which I'll look at a different one. But like I said, I was not 2 bounties. No wonder. That's crazy. But yeah, this is heavily sideboarded in. But yeah, like I said, I just played around Create Dragons, and he just could never actually play any bombs because of my leader, and that was kind of game over from there. Yeah, so that worked out very well. The Ray deck, like I said, this deck cannot grind. It can't. Look at the sideboard. What can it do? Nothing. It has nothing. And I think I stole this game 1. And then game 2 I stole this, but like I said, this deck has no way to grind. It just puts big butts on the board, but unlike the green version, it can't convert those. Um, Yikes. Yeah. Here's the Vader Yellow. Like I said, I think the only new thing is this AT Hauler now that they're running. That's actually really annoying because it's a good flip to target and it's really solid, but the rest is as we'd expect. It's everything dies to Escort or P-38s or our ISB pings, and of course we have Confiscate for the leader, which means they have to deploy on the ground, which then we can No Gonna Be Dead or Vader or Maul or whatever and just continue on with our lives. So I think this is still a good matchup provided you stick with the ISBs and the Confiscates in your main deck, which I think for this meta you should, especially with how represented it was. Here's a Sabine ECL. I think if they're only running 2 4 causes, you've got a really good match up there. If they aren't, yikes. And I know they're running one on the side, but Fighters for Freedom is probably the most annoying card in their deck, which is another thing why I really like the Moff Gideon. But yeah, pretty standard. I think all these Sabine ECLs now are running a very standard list, so you just have to be aware of how to manipulate their use of ECL and when to manipulate their thinking that it's the best. And then of course Ryan's Sabine list. Let's take a look there. Like I said, look at that immaculate day 1 performance. Fortunately, he did not convert day 2, which is sad. But again, this is where like the cartel spacers were glorious, and Frozen Carbonite was huge. No Gonna Be Dead was huge. Basically against like this deck, you have to play around Kira messing up your turn. You cannot do that. So whenever you're playing around it, you just have to mentally think like, if he had Kira here, do I just lose the game on the spot by not having a turn? And then of course being aware of Han, Falcon, upgraded unit shenanigans with your traders, cartel spacers, tapping down stuff and making sure you have tempo on them. And then of course being aware of upgrade removal, whether it be Bamboozle or Fang Fighters. So that's really cool. And again, let's look at the Kira first before I look at the Ray deck. As you can see, game 1, there's still like he was running Annihilator, Devastator, Avengers, Relentless, all in the main, which is crazy enough. But then when it came to the sideboard, look at this: another Annihilator, another Relentless, 2 more of these, another one of these, all of these. All of this comes in, and it's just so grindy. He was running Snoke too. Like his deck was like crazy. Got the grind, dude. Um, and it's just tough. Like it's tough to grind out these decks, especially this one with just infinite top end. It's just it gets to a very late stage in the game. And then of course the Ray deck. Um, Unity of Purpose in sideboard for this one. Timely Reinforcements in the main. Some are running this in the main, but that's really all. And choose sides, obviously. Choose sides. So that's the thing. And the new reinforcements, and the Fel of the Dragons, and the home ones, and the Lukes. This one actually wasn't running salvage, which is crazy enough. But yeah, just infinite bodies to the board, bodies to the board, bodies to the board, bodies to the board. And yeah, they have card draw, which you don't suspect. This one was running the Fleet Admirals, which was massive into me. Like, brother, that's so annoying. So this one was definitely, I felt like, more tech to beat me, and it kind of worked. Since we drew. Then this Quinlan Voss deck, like I said, these decks have no reach. This one was running a crafty. That's crazy. Yeah. So once you like stabilize, this deck just cannot close the game. The issue is you have to close the game, and they'll just keep putting threats on the board, but you can answer all their threats every single time. It's just you have to be fast enough to actually kill them, which unfortunately I was unable to do. And then of course the Sabine that rolled me, because I didn't have a turn 1. That will be the case if you don't draw turn 1 into Sabine. You are 99% going to lose that game. But yeah, this one felt more realistic. Cham is a reason. I'm not all the Sabines are running it, but if they are, you get super mega punished if you ramp into them, which is why I was trying to avoid ramping, which is why I had the Moff Gideons. It was a really good play on forward, regardless of what I was playing into. It was good into mid range, it was good into control, and it was good into aggro. That's something that's exceptionally good, and I wanted in my deck. But yeah, standard 3/4 causes upgrades. Yeah, it's tough. Then I beat this Quinlan Data Vault, which this deck, like I said, cannot grind like the blues versions, because like yeah, they have the home ones, they have the haunts, they have the U-wing reinforcement. They don't have the U-wing reinforcements. Okay, this one isn't playing U-wing reinforcements, but I would suspect they do. But there's not much, like they don't have the redundancy of threats that blue offers for some reason. But yeah, this matchup is just so much better, and as you can see, he had a lot of trouble with Kiras. Just could not deal with it. The Hanzo I lost to, Falcon Cheese, but I would say this is pretty standard. They're gonna run Confiscate in the main, just one, and then they're gonna have 1 to 2 in the side that you have to be aware of. Same with like Change of Heart, none in the main, but they're gonna have 1 in the side. So those are the 2, I think, major things to keep in mind. And Salvage, of course, with the Falcon that readies Fast Falcon, just something to keep in mind. But yeah, your main point is making sure they can't put a big thing in the air. I think, like I said, I think I played pretty poorly into mine. I don't think I made the correct decisions, but so I'll take the L on that one. And then of course the hard control items. This is tough because basically their only units are useless, annoying because it's just the perfect time where it's like it's hard to steal, but it's like it's hard to, yeah, it's hard. These and the 2 Cad Banes, the Annihilators, just this is an abysmal matchup. And there's really not much you can do. They don't even need to sideboard anything because like there's just what can you do? There's just not much you can do to this. It just mills you, and that's all it will do. So yeah, I'll have to work on that matchup. And then of course Kira. This Kira was, I don't know why it was so much easier. Let's take a look. 1 Annihilate, 1 Dasher, 1 Relentless. Yeah, I mean this is. They're all kind of the same. I don't know why this matchup was so much easier. He had a rough day too, really, really rough day too. But yeah, like I said, I think all of these matchups, except for Sabine, of course, you really can't deal with that. I think I could have done better, with maybe a little bit better of a deck, or a little bit better play style. Maybe got a little bit luckier, but I think with some changes with this performance, we can definitely improve upon just how good Palp Yellow is currently. Um, and now that we kind of went through my matchups and my deck list, let's go through some of the tops and once again. So this cure that won, I'm gonna suspect this is SWU. A lot of wins as one would expect. But yeah, the relentless in the main is really annoying. We're gonna have to think of something about that. Um, but then like the game one is gonna be your best game because they only run one super laser or two super laser blasts. So I think that's gonna be the time to beat them. And maybe you go for just drawing out game two with a game plan. Yeah, I'm not sure how to approach these mid-range decks because game one we can win usually pretty good, which is what I did against all the two decks I drew against. I won game one and lost game two when time was called. So it's like it's one of those. It might be a legitimate strategy to try and just draw the game two just by just doing what these decks do, which is just endless redundancy of threats after threat after threat after threat after threat after threat. Maybe it's time for the meme one of Super Laser Blast for 10 or something. Because yeah, these decks grind forever and ever and ever and ever. Cad Bane Target Town, I think this matchup is fine. I don't think there's really much we have to worry about. I think just Miss Hunter not getting infinite value of card draws, and of course playing around another of two of them, and Sneak Attack with Frozen and Carbonite. And of course playing around Target Town, but there's not much that we're really concerned about the Target Towning. So yeah. Han Solo 30. I think this is better than the Data Vault ones. Um, but yeah, they're going kind of with the game plan of space. Um, but like Pose is good. Chewies are good. Um, to see one of confiscates and then one of yeah. This is very standard, very very standard of what you should expect. Avoid dying to Falcon early, and then making sure to have an answer for Han on the flip. Um, pretty much this close to the same thing, grinding forever and ever and ever. And then this one has timelies. Maybe it's time to play some timelies. It's annoying. Okay. Quinlan Voss. This one is the same, just dodge their hand hate, play Palp's Return. I don't know. This is a flashback to an older time. Wow, look at that run. That's crazy run. Crazy run. Just destroyed. Um, but yeah, this one, I think the same game plan would be careful of how much space. These things are actually crazy annoying. And then create dragons. That's like the only thing you have to worry about is early aggression with like early pose. Champs and Duel is also crazy because like against this deck you usually wanted to ramp, but now that has this card you kind of don't. Because like if they can get crit dragon super super fast, that is not super super good. But yeah. Sabine, ECL, Vaders, Rays. This is kind of the meta you're going to see. You're going to see, oh, here's the boss that I want to see. This would be a much more standard boss, in my opinion. 3 of all the bounties. The pillages in the main, not the sides, and then a lot more. I think this is funny. But yeah, this is more what I would suspect. Not Bazines, but that could actually be crazy annoying. But yeah, if we look for the meta analysis, this is exactly what I expect. If I was going to a tournament, even if it's a small PQ, let's say 75 people, I expect when I reach the good tables, we're going to be playing again Ray, the Hans, the Vaders, the Curas, and the Sabines, and the other Vaders. Like that is what I would suspect to see N-Tech into, and of course Quinlan as well. And for some reason, Boba Fett is popular, but yeah, these decks is 100% what I would be looking to deck into. Rays, the Hans, the Vaders, the Curas, and the Sabines. Especially when you look at the top 64 conversion rate, that is literally Kira, Han, Sabine, Ray, Han, Vader, Quinlan. Like that is what's winning. So it is what I would check out. I do want to look at the other Palp lists for reference, because it's always good to get some reference. As you can see, I was 51st. The next one in line was 84, which was a Palp Lake Country, which I think is a very interesting concept between Lake Country or Data Vault. Honestly, now that I've seen the Lake Country in action, I kind of like it more than Data Vault. I think the only thing that I would disagree with is the relentlesses I feel like should be in the main. But beyond that, like, and I think a little bit more geared towards space. My Palp green list is much more space ready, which I feel like this deck is not. But that's fine. Like, I don't think you need scanning officers in this meta. I think space units would be better. But other than that, yeah, pretty standard. I feel like, again, I would cut scanning officers, and I mean that's one of the arguments for running Data Vault is the fact that you can basically just take all of these cards and just put them into your main deck. Like main deck the Relentlesses, main deck the Palpatine's Return, main deck more solid turn ones. So there's an argument to that. And let's just check that one out right here. This is the best performing Data Vault list. I'm not going to look at the really sad ones. These are really, really sad. Yikes. But as you can see, change of heart is so good, apparently. It was so good that this person was running 3 of them for 8. Their change of hearting on 9. That's crazy. That's how much they wanted this. But like I said, this one worked against Kira's. 4 Kira's in a row. That's crazy. Unfortunately, it seems it had trouble with Ray. Losing to Rays, and of course against hard control it lost. And that's because it's not running Relentless anywhere, which is just crazy to me. Like, hello? Where you at? That would be the one thing I would say. Like if you're playing green and only green, play Relentlesses somewhere. You're going to need them into hard control. You don't have any of the tricks that the other colors do. Best performing blue list was Colossus. I'm surprised that green and yellow are actually more represented than Colossus. But this is a rough way to start your day. 3 draws into mid-range grindy decks that are all blue, green, or green, green. That's crazy. Considering though, I'd feel like everyone says this is where Palp is at their best, and as you can see, not able to cross the finish line with this particular build. And I can see why I don't really like this build. Like, I'm not really sold on. I think this card is garbage in any way. Like, even if you have Krennic, I still think this card is garbage. And then, like, it's so light on top end. And it doesn't have blasts. It just feels very like, what am I doing with my time? The sideboard makes more sense, but yeah, this is a rough. No Pershing as well with Colossus. I fundamentally disagree with. Was he running Pershing? He was. And he got rolled by 3 space decks. Because I assume he has nothing for space. Yeah, nothing. Just absolutely nothing. That's why you run Confiscates, so you don't get rolled like this guy. Alright. And of course the other Palp Yellow that did very well. 106, not bad at all. On the McClunky, as you can see, he lost to 2 Quinlans, but he was on the McClunky. He had a lot of 1-ofs, which I really liked. The 1 of CAD, the 1 of Cartel, the 1 of Assault Carriers. This is not bad. This is not bad. I honestly kind of wish I had it. I thought about it, but I actually didn't physically have any, and I just forgot to get some. So then I just didn't put it in my deck list, but I would have put 1 of. But I actually kind of like it, especially into like Relentless and stuff. Like, you just need any random body, and then you just sack it, you ping, and then you kill it, and it's kind of okay. Like, that's fine. Like, it's not bad. It kills Relentless. It ramps you too. So like, that's not bad at all, considering it allows you to essentially not ramp yourself. Excuse me. So like that I think is really cool. I think the dogfights are kind of cool, neat ideas, especially when you're running the contracted hunters or the reinforcement walkers. Those are probably your 2 best options for it. Using an uncontracted hunter to do 8 damage to something, since the contracted hunter will die anyway. The 1 of bamboozle is, like I said, it's playing as a lot of different things. I personally would still be on just 2 confiscates and 3 no good to be deads, but this dual purpose is allowing him to dedicate slots elsewhere for those by using that. And then a timely intervention, I'm still not super sold on this. Like, it's good with Walker and P38s, but that's, I would say, about it. And the one of salvage, which is good into force throw, which ironically didn't help him, unfortunately. But like I said, he beat the Ray Data Vault and Akira and the Cat Banes and Tarkin Yellow. That's crazy. But yeah, it looks like he just needed a little bit of help in his Quinlan matchup, which unfortunately his sideboard doesn't really help him out too much besides the 2 Palps returns. But yeah, those are the other Palp lists. I think there's a way to reset filters. So yeah, what's my takeaways here? One, a little bit more game into Quinlan, I think, is a little bit needed. Not because you'll see it, but when you see it, you'll need to beat it. And then a little bit more game into these Ray Data Vault decks. I think I might be going to one last PQ. So after my changes from this weekend, we'll see how that performs. Hopefully I finally get a W and get my day 1 bye. But yeah, I'll have an updated list in the coming weeks of what I would play if I was going to a PQ, because I think Palpio is actually in a really good spot. I really like the version that kind of just abandoned ship on the Sabine matchup and dedicated more for the board. So if you're looking for inspiration, I would look at this list. This is like 54 cards, so just remove this, remove this, remove this, and then that's 51 cards. You could move those aside, you could move these to the side. There's a lot of things you can do with your Palp list. So many good cards to put in. We need a data vault for yellow. But yeah, with that, I will leave you to explore Palp Yellow. Good luck.